This is a video demonstrating step 1 from the 7 Steps to Heaven handout, which I put together based on one that I had received from Jiggs Wiggum many years ago at the Port Townsend Jazz Workshop. It's posted at learnjazzstandards.com, which is an excellent website put together by a friend of mine, Camden Hughes, and it's kind of a forum for ways of thinking about organizing your practice routine and learning jazz standards and learning the language of jazz. There's also sorts of useful videos and chord charts and play-alongs and so forth. So if you don't have a copy of that handout in front of you, it's available in PDF form at the website. Step 1 just states memorize the melody, listen to a wide variety of recordings of the song, work on playing the song in different keys, tempos, and styles, and try to exhaust the melodic possibilities of the song and absorb it into your subconscious. So on this clip, I'm basically just going to be talking about memorizing the melody, where to start. And because of copyright restrictions, as Camden mentions on the website, you will not find the melodies for any of these tunes or the lyrics, but they're easily obtained on the internet. You can just do a search, a Google search will get you the lyrics to almost any of these tunes. I've chosen to use All the Things You Are, which is a song that Camden also has posted on learnjazzstandards.com with videos and chord charts and some ideas on how to memorize the chord progressions and all sorts of different useful materials. All the Things You Are is a great American songbook tune. We refer to those tunes that come from the musical theater. They weren't intentionally written as jazz vehicles, but they became jazz vehicles because of their interesting harmonic and melodic structures, and really were absorbed by jazz musicians into the lexicon. And definitely All the Things You Are is one of those tunes that's done quite frequently. If you do an iTunes search, you'll find hundreds of versions of that particular tune. So I'm using the real book. The real book is now available in legal form. It's published by Hal Leonard in several different volumes. For many years it circulated illegally because the copyright rights had not been secured by the people that had published it. But I'm just going to play it right off of the sheet, and this is the starting point really for you to get a metronome, be able to play the tune in time without any sort of embellishments, just playing the melody. This is straight off of the lead book sheet. So it's very straightforward, no embellishments and things. I think with the Great American Songbook tunes, they are more difficult for younger players because these tunes were written as part of a show, and a lot of times rhythmically they're very straightforward, and there's a lot of whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, and it can be confusing for younger players as how to phrase them. And if you look at the learnjazzstandards.com examples that Camden's posted, he has a version of Keith Jarrett playing this tune. He starts right off improvising. In fact, most of the recordings you'll find, it's hard to discern even what the melody is because they've already started into the improvisational process. You really need to get a firm foundation by knowing what the melody is. That's definitely the guy that I studied with, Lee Konitz. I've read several recent articles, and that's one of his things that he still keeps emphasizing. And there's actually an excellent documentary on Lee called The Portrait of an Artist as Saxophonist, and they follow him into a music school in Canada, and he's actually working with some students. You can watch him talking about this. You need to know the melody, and he kind of uncovers that in a couple of the students, that they don't really know what the melody notes are of this tune. Knowing the lyrics is very important too. Lester Young, amongst many other jazz musicians, were very adamant about knowing the lyrics so that you can know how to kind of phrase the tune and what the spirit of the tune is in a lot of ways. And with this particular one, the lyrics for All the Things You Are starts out, "You are the promised kiss of springtime that makes the lonely winter seem long." That's the first 8 bars. So if you don't really know those words, it's going to be a little wooden. You're just going to get those kind of quarter notes that are going to sound a little bit more like a marching band or something. It's really not any syncopation or specific rhythmic language. That's a big difference between learning this type of tune and learning tunes that are written by jazz musicians, which are also featured on LearnJazzStandards.com. Blue Bossa, St. Thomas, and Blue Monk, and some of the other tunes were written by jazz musicians. So Sonny Rollins, and when you get tunes by Thelonious Monk and Charlie Parker and Clifford Brown, those tunes have very specific rhythmic language, and it doesn't become, I think for some younger players it's a little easier to start that way because you don't have those decisions as to what to do with these quarter notes and whole notes, which it's very simple. It's like playing a Christmas carol or something here. You know, it doesn't have a lot of rhythmic variety, it doesn't have a lot of syncopation. And instead you have to dig into the lyrics. So if you're thinking you are the promised kiss of springtime, those quarter notes are word promised kiss of springtime, which can be phrased a number of different ways. So, promised kiss of springtime, promised kiss of springtime, you are the promised kiss of springtime. You know, just kind of many different ways, and you'll hear that with lyrics when you hear vocal versions of this. There's many different ways of expressing that. Makes the lonely winter seem long. So that's those next quarter notes are makes the lonely winter seem long. Many different ways of phrasing that, and it really helps if you have those words in your head. Gives you an idea of how to work with those quarter notes. I think with younger players it becomes difficult to play tunes like this, like All the Things You Are, or What Is This Thing Called Love, or Summertime, or even I Got Rhythm, and those type of tunes, which actually, if you, the tune I Got Rhythm, not a lot of syncopation, not a lot of really kind of polyrhythmic type of things in it, ironically. So learning jazz tunes that are written by jazz musicians, they've already taken into consideration, you know, syncopation and kind of jazz phrasing, particularly Charlie Parker tunes, and you definitely get that with Thelonious Monk's tunes. There's a very specific rhythmic type of language where if you just play it off the page, you're already kind of into a kind of interesting rhythmic interpretation. With these great American songbook tunes that are written for the Broadway shows and for musical theater, that's really up to you, to make your individual decisions of how you're going to do that. One other thing that I find with younger players, especially with these type of tunes, but also with the jazz standards, tunes written by jazz musicians, is there's a tendency to really not keep the form intact all the way through. As a tune like this, each of the phrases ends with 2 whole notes tied together. So there's a real strong tendency to kind of fudge and cheat a little bit on that. So with younger players, they'll be kind of compressing the form and not really taking care to make sure that there's like a bass player kind of in their head and that they're hearing those 4 beats to every bar. I just jumped and several beats just kind of went by the wayside there at the end of that phrase. Again, it's kind of like compressing. I'm not really staying honest there with the beat all the way through. So that's an important thing. And in the next clip, when I take the next sentence of this step 1, listen to a wide variety of recordings of the song, I'll show you a way that you can kind of reinforce that by playing along with recordings. It can help you with the form and really keeping track of every measure so that you're not fudging sometimes at the end of those forms. So that's really the very beginning of step 1, memorizing the melody.